Hello everyone, I am here with Laura Eisenhower, and she is going to be speaking on a part of the series of Defibulating the Divine Feminine. So Laura, thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me, Jessica.
What have you been up to?
Well, I've been doing some conferences. I just did the Conscious Life Expo, and a few other things here and there, and I'm preparing for some more, a trip to South Africa at the end of the month. And I've just been really processing a lot of information constantly and trying to, get it out there in a way that's articulate, for people to really understand the deeper layers, rather than the mental information that we're all kind of processing and dealing with, that I, as am doing myself. But as I do that, really integrating it into the heart and into the wisdom and into the missing links and the things that we need to get in touch with within ourselves in order to shift things without getting lost in the information to the point of creating tension and conflict amongst each other. So that's really my focus right now, and expressing as much that I know that I can through interviews and everything like that. So.
Okay, so as far as, is this also a conference going to be in South Africa?
Yeah, it's with Michael Tellinger.
Oh.
And really my focus is, definitely about the divine feminine, and not just about getting in touch with our feminine side, but really understanding it on a cosmic level, and how that energy has been targeted since really the beginning. So I really get into, some of the myths and the origins of, things like the reptilians, and, how to kind of understand the larger picture so that we can see it and heal it holistically in our own self.
All right.
So yeah, that's kind of what my presentation is going to be about, and how that connects to government treaties with extraterrestrials and things connected to the military-industrial complex, and of course the shadow government and all that, deeper sort of disturbing stuff. But yeah, it's all connected, and I've definitely put some pieces together that are quite interesting.
Well, do share. Whatever
you
feel like.
Well, yeah, gosh. It's funny because, sometimes the information comes in so quick, and we were just talking about this, that I stumble over my words, so I'll try and kind of make this as sort of short as I can, just to kind of summarize. But when we go back, into the beginning of time, and we sort of understand, just the origins of everything, there was a leak in the pleroma, which is like the Godhead, and in that leak, there was a disturbance and a bit of imbalance took place, which produced the archons. I could get into detail about the archetypes and the names, but I think if we just understand the energy, we can see it as the leak is sort of like the expression of ego, of this identity of trying to understand oneself. And in that process, we go through a level of duality. We either feel good or we feel terrible. And this sort of judgment of good and bad, or self-worth or self-confidence, and all these different dichotomies are what sort of have determined what sort of entities that we deal with. And without integrating it into our higher awareness, we are very vulnerable to lower entities that, can come into the aura of planet Earth and, take advantage of the fact that the masculine and feminine powers are not aligned and not in balance. So when we, really understand those origins and understand, the split in the demiurge lower creator God is in a way an expression of the lower male self, and at the same time, just as much a part of the feminine self, which can be, that masculine energy in a woman that might not be integrated in the higher self. So, that can cause behaviors like wanting to control things, wanting dominion, wanting dominance, wanting, just the servant self mentality. It's been labeled as patriarchal, and it definitely is a male-dominated thing, but I'm not here to choose genders, because we all have masculine and feminine energy. And so sort of the lower energy on the feminine level tends to be victim consciousness, feeling exiled, repressed, shut down. And men can carry that because, in a sense, their feminine energy has been exiled from them in replacement for this need to control. So we all sort of have to step back and look at ourselves and see what these conditions are within. As we see, the tarot deck has all these different archetypes, and astrology helps us see that all those different energies and aspects are available to us. It's up to us to really manage it and create that archetypal harmony again, rather than project this us and them. We're all victims, we're getting attacked, and we get so lost in the conspiracy and the information that we don't step up and do the soul work and realize that, doing that for ourselves and connecting with each other with integrity and the desire for harmony is really where the real work is at. So, and this ties into the military-industrial complex, into the hidden agendas in the secret government, and also, things like Alternative 3 and the creation of a Mars colony. And so when I was presented with going to Mars and being recruited, it was presented to me in a positive light. Mm-hmm. So we have positive false flags, and we have false flags that cause us fear, because in a sense, our hopes and fears are being manipulated. When we really, really want something, they target. When we're really, really afraid of something, they target. Right. So what better than to have terrorists scare us, or us to be lured into things that are taking advantage of our heart, and our desire to help humanity. So they presented the Mars recruitment to me as something that would protect the human race and protect the human genome. And it was about, escaping the Earth from cataclysms. And my initial reaction was, that's BS. We don't need to evacuate Mother Earth. Right. This is a deeper agenda, and it's all about control. And, that's when I just really understood that it was connected to the New World Order agendas. And when I investigated the names in the recruitment, I discovered they were connected to the technologies and to those sort of groups. So false flags can come to us on a positive level. And so we have to understand that a lot of people who have, a very good nature get drawn into things because that's part of the manipulation. It's like if you don't join them and become their agent, they will lure you with other ways. And so this all ties into the repression of the divine feminine energies, in the sense that the planet Mars is, like war and masculine. And a lot of the reasons they recruited me was to shut down my voice when it comes to the divine feminine, and that was what was leaked to me. But it was presented to me as I would be helping reseed a new civilization. And I'm sure, it would have eventually grown, and other women, maybe you, all of us would have been, kind of taken away to be, sort of in this scenario. And maybe I was supposed to be the person to kind of gather us all. And instead I'm here gathering us all like you are on Earth, to really just respect the fact that the divine will and the nature of our planet is to really bring us to where we need to be. And anything else we need to question.
And acting out of what is true, what we feel, what we're passionate about, what we love to do, rather than what we're afraid to do. And if we don't do this, then something bad is going to happen to us and our loved ones, which is, for me, the definition of the fear and the terrorism that's constantly being played out in the world, but really how it's occurring with us on a daily basis, to how we individually, each one of us, are contributing to it and actually encouraging it, just by us not doing that inner work of the soul, like you are saying. And when we get carried away to the fear, then we get carried away to the stories that they're telling us as well. And we have this visual of us being on this other world, helping, colonize whatever, it's their reality, and they're taking our power away and manifesting something that, does not even need to be. And what is the purpose of that, really, but to just, I think, help us snap out of it and awaken, right? To avert these things from happening, right? And to take this opportunity to take our power back, and to see that we could create our own reality. A reality that has everybody's best intention in mind, not this fear story over and over. And what I love so much about your work is that you are so much into the archetypal understanding of the feminine, and also just how this, I really feel that this plays a really big part with what is happening in the world, our stories. The fairy tales, the Greek mythology, all of these are the archetypes of our actual collective story of humanity and what is happening with us. I'll give you an example. Like, I don't know if I talked to you about this before, but the Greek myth gods, how the god of love, the god of war, they are said to be immortal, right? But to this very day, they exist, that archetype within ourselves. Yes. Right? And they're battling almost which one are we going to give our attention to the most, and, base our reality through that perspective and understanding. Right? So I find that really interesting as we try to harmonize these archetypals within us, and how it plays out outside of us as well, all around.
Yeah, we're the living extension of these archetypal myths, and just like you said, I always like to say, the mythology is like the story of our soul. Mm-hmm. And we experience it in relationships. We work it out through the deeper layers of who we are. And, even the tree of life and the tree of good and evil is huge for all of us. That restoration of balance, that understanding of how to break free by, going far away from who we are in order to get that big smack in the face and really wake up, just like you said. I mean, these agendas, it's not about us and them, it's the shadow side of humanity.
Mm-hmm.
It's that lost aspect, that unintegrated aspect of self that creates this whole other scenario that can, that only thrives in our ignorance and in our lack of awareness. And as we begin to rise to all that we are, there's just no room for it. And this is the story of matter in the physical world. This is about being an architect of heaven on earth. It's a project. It's not something that, can happen overnight. It takes cycles. It takes getting lost to be found again, and to really understand, like who we are based on how we react to things, based on how we can step up. And we find this in relationships. If we're in a controlling relationship and we're being abused, some people might stick around. Other people might say no and get their power back. And so everybody's being called to say, what are you worth? What are you made of? And it's not a programming, it's not a projection, it's not a stereotype, it's not something we see on TV as far as how we should all behave. It's about separating oneself and understanding that the adversity that we go through is actually a gift. And, the Mars recruitment was an incredible gift in a sense that it forced me to just have that fire erupt in me, just like my truth was just like flying out of me, and there was just no way I could be manipulated. And so that was helping me strengthen myself and understand that I know who I am, and I just can't be manipulated. And it doesn't mean that I've never had that experience, but, it just enables me to remind people that nobody that has a voice should control your direction, your dreams, your creativity. And ultimately, we find that in schools, we find that in authority. And authority is a form of mind control, unless its intention is to guide and to protect.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're guided and protected, we are nurtured to be all that we are meant to be. We're not meant to be steered in another direction. So, these myths are really incredible, because when we think about the Divine Feminine and her story, we see things like, this time that she reigned and there was balance and there was peace and there was no disease, and then all of a sudden this sort of external force comes in from a whole other dimension, the Anunnaki sort of reptilian thing, and then we find her story really changes. All of a sudden she's going through the gateways of hell and connecting to her rageful sister, which is an aspect of who she is, who exists at the very bottom, and she's working to bring balance back to the underworld, the earth, and the heavens, so that it's this wholeness that we're all seeking, where our creativity and our depths is the underworld, and it's birthing everything that we envision, and that we're stable and we're in our bodies, and that we are connected to our higher consciousness, which is like the heavens. So it's very metaphorical. But then we also see Persephone get dragged into the underworld by a patriarchal force that sits in the underworld, which is the mother womb, kind of staking its territory, when it's not an energy that is meant for it, unless there's some level of unity and consent. But to be abducted sort of and be imprisoned in your own creative matrix, where everything on the surface of Earth is, keeping it from being able to blossom into all that it is what we're dealing with. And the physical world is telling that story of the feminine being abducted and exiled, and that her journey back to Earth is our awakening. And that's why there's focus on the feminine, and it has nothing to do with, feminine powers taking over. It's about unity, it's about balance, it's about the masculine and feminine power being,
harmonious
in relationship again in a beautiful way.
Yes. Oh my goodness, you said so many things, and it made me want to share so many things, but I would not dare interrupt you. With the understanding of reptilians, for example, the dragons in the medieval time, it would always be to slay the dragon that was in a cave, right? So that, because it was always guarding the gold or the treasure, right? Our inner gold and treasure, not necessarily to slay, but to overcome or transcend. Even within Chinese mythology, they have a dragon guarding a pearl, right? And where does the pearl come from? Inside a clamshell, right? The goddess of love, Venus, is riding a clamshell, right? So it's almost like they're telling us the story of the archetypal journey that we are on here, where within the reptilian aspect, what role it has to play, how it's guarding the pearl of our inner treasure that we have to find by doing that soul work, right? Healing and balancing it, and bringing about a clarity where, yes, we're trapped in this reality, but then we start to realize that we're all working collectively. Every one of us has this little puzzle piece where we are all working for the greater good collectively to complement and complete the bigger picture.